Hello and welcome to our new show on GameSpot, Quoted for Truth. It's a weekly news show where we are going to argue about the biggest stories of the week. I am your host, John Davison, and with me is news editor Brendan Sinclair and the magnificent Tom McShay. So this show is not just about us yelling at each other. The name is Quoted for Truth for a reason. Your opinion is very, very important. We want your comments at the bottom of the page. We're on GameSpot. We are on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're also watching Twitter, so you can tweet at us with the hashtag GSQFT. All right, guys, so everything about this show is going to be user-generated over time, including my outfit, I've decided. So this was chosen for me by Twitter. There were two options. I just said like formal or casual, and it degenerated a little bit into people wanting to wear a shirt and tie or go naked. But I thought I'd spare you that. So I instead went for this, which is I've got my shorts on for the casual bottom half, and flip flops, ladies.
Business on top.
Business at the top. This is the sartorial mullet. You like that?
No, not at all.
Maybe next week. We'll come up with other options next week. Anyway, so this week we're going to go through the biggest news stories of the week, and we are going to kick off with the big one for next week. Diablo 3 comes out on Tuesday. But I think something that we need to talk about, it's come up a lot this week, has the franchise stalled a little bit? Game director Jay Wilson said this week that innovation comes from perfect execution. An innovative game that's poorly executed is not a good game. A game that's executed well is always a great game. So, Tom. How important is innovation? Do you think, is it losing a little? Is the art losing out to the science here a little bit?
A little bit. Like Blizzard, they kind of approach game design like they're making a washing machine, where they like take existing, like good technology, and then they make it better. They find a way to get more money out of you. So if you buy it, you have to put in quarters every time. And then they push it out the door. And it's like, everything they do is good. Like, it's really good. But like, game design is not like that clean cut. You need to take risks. You need to have new ideas. You need to be open to failure. And they don't do that, and so they don't really push games forward. They just kind of tread water, stay in the same place. And their big fan base keeps them alive, but they're not really doing anything interesting with that.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of a danger in the industry, a tendency to overemphasize the importance of innovation. Because innovation is everywhere. The indie scene is littered with all kinds of failed projects that were just like incredibly innovative, but they weren't executed on properly, and so they never got finished, they never got produced, they never got big. You look at what Blizzard does with execution, I think we kind of shortchange that, because it just seems like when we have these huge companies executing reliably and at a really high level, we just kind of like, oh, we take it for granted. You can do that if you throw enough money and time at it. But it's the execution that takes something innovative and then makes it transcendent. You had Killswitch, the PS2 cover-based shooter, that came out and people were like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice. And then Gears of War comes out, executes on that same idea at a high level, and then all of a sudden it's just completely changed the industry.
They have enough time and money to be both innovative and execute well. I mean, you look at games like Vanquish that are very unique and very well done. Blizzard's making, 5 or 6 years for all these games. They can go further than they go.
They could. The execution is what they do. That's what you go to Blizzard for. And I think there's something to be said for just doing it at that level, because so few people actually can.
I think one of the interesting things with this one is that they do seem to be experimenting with, and I think it's not really innovating, but for them it is, they're experimenting with free-to-play style gameplay mechanics with the auction house. But you have to pay $60 at the door, or if you're a sucker like me, $100 at the door, so you can get your little skull head thing with the USB key and everything in it.
They innovate in business models.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see more. I think as things evolve with the auction house and what people are doing with the weapons. I think one thing they are doing is they are handing the tools over to the audience, and we hope to see that a lot more. So the hook for the show, Quoted for Truth, we're going to draw comments from the stories that all this stuff is sourced from every week. So when we ran this story originally, Fui442 said, I think what most people expect from Blizzard at this point is polish, not innovation. Not to say that's a bad thing, it's just what they do best. I think he has a point.
Yep.
I think you guys even raised that. All right, next up, Genova Chen from that company says that PS3 players appreciate art more than 360 and Wii players. Genova told VentureBeat this week that the player who owns a PlayStation 3 is more likely to be interested in artistic games compared to Wii and 360. Sony has a more artistic and adult-focused taste. They care about how grown-ups feel toward their games. Brendan, do you think PS3 players are artier?
Genova got so much hate for this, but I think he's got a point. It's not so much that the players appreciate art more or less, it's that the company appreciates art more or less. I think Sony embraces and supports games as art better than Microsoft or Nintendo to just a huge degree. If you look at Nintendo, as much as they've done for games as art in establishing this medium, they've always been about fun for all, family-style, approachable experiences. It's just, that's their focus, and they happen to make art in the meantime. Sure, that's great. You look at Microsoft, they don't care about art so much as they care about what they think will sell. And sometimes that works with, you know, Braid or Limbo. But Sony is willing to like use art as a loss leader. They'll have prestige projects that they don't expect to make money, and they put it out there, and they don't always market it great. But if you look at their track record with like, now's a great time to freeze. But it's like Closure, Papo EO, the Team Ico game, Shadow Colossus. It's just, you don't get those experiences on the other platforms, and the other platforms don't embrace them the way Sony does. Right down to the PS3's opening startup chime, the orchestra tuning up. Like, that tells you where Sony's coming from.
Man.
You're shaking your head.
Well, artistic people just go off on these tangents. I should have jumped in there earlier. You're just going to go all day about art. I agree completely. Everything you said is true. Sony funds arts, but Microsoft knows how to make money, and they market arts. And that is more important ultimately. You look at a game like Fez, you look at a game like Closure. They came out right around the same time. Closure's a better game. No one played Closure. So Microsoft has developed a platform that's really easy to get games onto and get into consumer hands. They market it. They have these promotions like Summer of Arcade. They make sure the media knows about it and cares about it, so we get word out about them, and then people play them. There's not as many artistic games on the 360, but they sell better. So I think that the Genova Chen is kind of shortchanging what the Xbox consumer is willing to play, because I mean, you look at Braid and you look at Limbo in these games, they started on the 360 and they were huge on the 360. That's not the case with the PS3 usually.
So Sony innovates in art games and then Microsoft executes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Microsoft doesn't know anything about art games. They do not make them. But
I don't think they care.
They don't care. They got Jonathan Blow to make a game for them, and that is something they can hang their hat on. And they supported that and they marketed that.
And I think with Sony, I think what we're seeing is a more, I think, rather than the players, which is what Genova's talking about. I mean, he touched on it with the comment about Sony itself. Sony seems more conscious of it. The guys that are signing the games are more conscious of it, and I think they are projecting an image with it. I think we've given the System Warmers forums plenty of material here. There were some guys in the comments while you were talking saying that they think this is the most ridiculous thing they've ever heard. Quoted for truth on this one, Phil Tepirate. I think I might have to do a voice for this one because I think pretentious. It's a long, look at that long quote. All right, quite. I regularly talk of the greatest artisans of our time over a scotch, whilst contemplating the bold, stark lines of blood that covers my screen as I blow the face off a nameless peon during a game of Battlefield 3. Why, I dare say it even irks me to consider the petty dealings of the lesser consoles. Scoff, scoff, chortle, chortle, guffaw, I say. There we go. That was the funniest comment we had, I think.
That's a pretty good comment.
All right, next up, Super Meat Boy dev slams mobile tactics. Edmund McMillan said that too many companies show a lack of respect for users with manipulative designs and in-app item purchases. And he said, to us, the core of what is wrong with the mobile platform is the lack of respect for players. It really seems like a large number of these companies out there view their audience as dumb cattle who they round up, milk, and then send them on their way feeling empty or at times violated. Wow, he really went with that one. Brendan, is he right? Do we feel violated?
Absolutely, completely. I feel violated right now, just thinking about this. Like, the mobile game design is not about making something that's entertaining or fun. It's about making something that engages users and is the closest distance between them playing the game and them pushing the button to give more money to the developer.
Yep.
It's like psychological conditioning. It's like when you go into a casino and there are no clocks anywhere so that you can lose track of time and just keep spending money. And that's fundamentally disrespectful, I think, to your player as a consumer. You're not treating them as this fair and equal partner. You're kind of shaking your head at me, Tom. What?
Well, you're right, kind of, but you went from the wrong angle. So I got to clear this up. The problem with mobile games is that they're way too cheap. Just about every game out there is $5 or less. So consumers have now been conditioned to pay like nothing for games.
And do you think to value them?
And that's the problem, is they devalue them. They think of them as disposable time wasters that you spend 15 minutes with on the bus, and that's it, because they only cost you $1 or it's free. And that's the bigger problem, because you're not going to want to spend money on games, and it costs money to make games. You're not going to get like inventive, imaginative games. And this extends beyond the mobile space. Valve, one of the greatest companies in the land, they have these Steam sales where stuff that is fantastic and relatively new, like Portal 2, is $7. And it's like, if people know that if they wait a month or 2 months to get, and they can get these games for cheaper, they're not going to spend $50 on games anymore, and it just plummets what these games are worth in the eyes of the consumer. So this is a problem for all companies. They have to figure out how to price these so they have value.
Right. And Edmund has an opportunity. They are working on a mobile-specific version of Super Meat Boy coming up. So he has an opportunity to show us all how he thinks he should be done. Quoted for truth is Richard III from our comments on this story. He said, he's pretty much right about all of this. Unfortunately, the problem is also with us as well. The only reason these developers are getting away with these tactics is because we're giving them the money to do it. We've got to take responsibility for our portion of the problem as players if we actually want it to go away.
He's right. Don't be a sucker.
Absolutely, don't be a sucker. All right, next up, this is something that has been buzzing around for a while. Microsoft confirms that the Xbox 360 with a Kinect, $99. The problem is that you've got to sign up for 2 years at $15 a month. That's $460 commitment for a bundle that, if you bought it up front, would actually be $400. We did the math, $420.
Wow.
So you're actually on the hook for more money. Tom, is the subscription model where you buy a console like a phone the future?
I kind of think it is. Like we buy things. We as a culture, not just you and me. We buy things we can't afford. We lease cars, and we get into these cell phone contracts that are $0 for a cell phone, but they're on the hook. And I think this is what you have to do to get consoles, because they're expensive. And Sony, what was it, $600 for the PS3? Like, you can't sell a system like that. So this is the best way to get it in consumers' hands. And like the beauty of it, the evil beauty, because Microsoft's always insidious with this kind of stuff. The evil beauty is that once you commit to a contract, you're going to want to support it with games for 2 years or 3 years, however long it lasts. So they ensure not only do you buy the next Xbox, you're going to buy games for it too.
Right.
See, when you say that, the first thing I think of is the Wii, because it's like, that was Nintendo's problem. People got Wii Sports and the Wii, and that was it. But I think the Wii's also kind of like sort of a terrifying model for this. When you think of, the Wii is the only console that came out and then instantly had the broad appeal to the casual gamer and then the core gamers there from day one. And that's why it was so hard to find for years after it launched. If a company takes this scheme and then has a $100 console right up front, that's going to be instantly appealing to the core and the casual base. So when you look at the games that were made for the Wii in the first couple of years, that software library was junk. That was trash. That was nothing but just like this wasteland of casual crap. And core gamers, for the most part, were like, here's a gem, there's a gem, and the rest of this off the table. It's terrible. That's what can happen if these console makers embrace this for the next generation.
This is extreme. Nintendo has had bad third-party support since the N64 came around, and the cartridges killed third parties. The other companies don't have this problem. Sony has third-party support. Microsoft has third-party support. You'll get more games than just the occasional mini-game collection.
Just the same way that those third parties are now taking their money and saying, packaged console games, they're going down. Mobile games, online, free-to-play stuff, that's going up. Let's put our R&D and our money into that. You're going to get the same problem. Everything's going to come at the expense of that core gamer because the industry's just getting too big for us.
Yeah, I like the idea of paying $400 for a console and getting it with not being on the hook, but I don't think it's a problem to get systems in more people's hands. It opens the door for sales.
It does, and I think one thing where Microsoft slipped up here is by still charging you up front. I think we're at a point now with the Xbox 360 where if it was sign up for $15 a month and we'll give you the console for free, I think we'd all be having a very different. I think it's that we're still not going to give it to you. We're still not going to treat it like a phone. And I think, it's what, we're 6 years in now? 6 years. I think
and a half, yeah.
I think it's time we could get a 4 gig one for free, even if it does have a Connect with it. Quoted for truth on this one, Batty on bench, who, look, he agrees with me. I in no way stole this, Batty. This is like buying a cell phone, he says. Get a new phone and $0 and get fucked on a 3-year contract. It's usually a 2-year contract, but, you know, I see where you're coming from.
It's just a question of how long this
How
coitus
long
will last.
the activity lasts. All right, next up, Electronic Arts is investing $80 million into next-gen games this year. They're ramping up investment in the next generation of consoles. The publisher revealed this week that between now and March 31st next year, it's dropping $80 million into what it's calling development of games for Gen 4 console systems. So now we have a term that may not catch on. Brendan, are you ready for next gen yet?
Okay.
If not, why not?
No. And
Why?
I don't think anyone is. Like, the contents of my bank account aside, I think that $80 million number sounds like a pittance. You have the Wii U launching this year, so there's already one system in the works. You should probably be starting to develop for the next Xbox, next PlayStation. And 80 million is the best you can do. Last year, EA CEO said that they were spending, along with Activision, promoting Modern Warfare 3 and Battlefield 3, $100 million just to market those 2 games.
Yep.
What do you have in the works for the Wii U, PS3, and the 720? If $80 million is all you're doing for that. Publishers don't want the next gen because it's too expensive to develop games. Gamers don't really want the next gen because all this exploitive DLC and online servers free to play, just every kind of awful microtransaction driven buzzword sort of thing you can cram in there is going to be in the next gen. Console makers don't want it because you suffer billions of losses until you finally turn around and get an installed base. Like, no one wants the next gen, even if some gamers are so dumb that they say they will.
Tom,
Conversely,
that was aimed at you.
Conversely, everybody wants the next gen. As I mentioned before, people want the newest thing. And they're willing to pay for that. They want that. All this technology is old. It's 5 years, it's 6 years old. People want something fresh. And you're kind of seeing this with the games too. All of the big games coming out, most of them, are just like rehashed sequels of stuff we've already played. And when you get new games, and when you get new systems, you get new IPs, you get new ideas, you get reasons to get the product in the consumer's hands. And also, publishers really want this because there's, as Brendan said, there's going to be new revenue streams. There's going to be free-to-play will be in it. There's going to be some subscription service for Sony's online or something like that. There's going to be other ways they make money. I think they just want to ditch this whole dying generation and move on to something clean and fresh.
I think it's as much about those models as it is about the technology.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Wii U may speak to this a little bit, but almost like don't push the technology too hard, but set the expectations on the subscriptions and the free-to-play and the pre-ordering DLC and all of that stuff from day one. So the message is there, and they don't hit us with it 3 years later.
Though I should tweak that. Don't push the graphics technology too much, but other technology like the tablet or motion controls, whatever they come up with.
You want more innovation in business models.
I don't want this. I'm just saying that I think we needed to get fresher game ideas out there.
Ripped off in new and original ways.
A little bit.
See, the irony is I'm always there day one for console launches, and he almost never is.
I like irony. Whatever.
Fantastic. Well, quoted for truth on this one, EKG Prod is clearly not an EA fan. Wow, they're making money by ripping people off with their manipulative free-to-play games and full-price digital releases that can be bought for half the price at any retail store. How odd. No thanks, EA. When everything goes digital, you have another thing coming if you think I'm paying the full $60 price for a digital game. And if any of the big 3 try to block used games, I'll quit gaming for good or learn how to pirate everything. Ooh, bold, 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 bold. Well, all right, so that's it for the big stories. Now we're going into our rapid fire round, where I want very short answers from you guys on some of the other news of the week. So quick hits. Are you ready? Oh, and we have appropriate music. Angry Birds was downloaded 1 billion times as of this week. How many of these are you responsible for, Brendan?
2.
Just 2?
Just 2.
Wow.
I'm proud to say 0.
God. I've probably got at least 6 different versions of it.
Oh no!
Yeah, all right, no, enough about that. Insomniac is making a Facebook game. I think I know the answer to this. What developer would get you to sign up for a Facebook game?
This is easy.
Tom.
Peter Molyneux.
Really?
No question. Molyneux with a D.
All right.
Awesome answer. None.
None?
I can't think of any. I'm drawing a blank.
Even Civilization? Sid Meier didn't draw you in?
It doesn't matter. Like
No?
my absolute favorite person in the whole world, developer, would just, doesn't matter. It's like you've gone to the dark side.
Yeah, that's one for the comment. Let us know we want to know that because we want to follow up on that. What developer would make you actually cave and play a Facebook game?
Wait. Maybe Tim Schafer.
Maybe Tim Schafer? All right. Next up, the Call of Duty-like Ace Combat Assault Horizon, which before the show I meant to look up what review score we gave it. Do you remember off the top of your head? You have an encyclopedic knowledge of these things.
It was
It doesn't matter. I remember.
Sub
on
six.
five. Yeah, not very good. Anyway, it sold more than 1 million copies. So, Tom, how do you feel about that? What does that say about people?
It says that name recognition and marketing are more important than game design. It's very sad.
In totally unrelated news, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City sold 1.7 million and crushed my faith in humanity.
Oh my God.
One fell swoop.
That's your fault, humanity.
Good grief. All right. BioShock Infinite, it was announced this week, has been delayed until next February. It's a 2K game. They came out and they said that they need more time to work on it. They're not going to show it at E3, etc. But there could be other things going on in the background. Do you think, given that it's a 2K game, that any of this is because of the possibility that GTA may come out this year?
I don't think so. I don't think that they know exactly what they've been doing with BioShock Infinite. And GTA 5, it's like, they haven't said it's coming out this fall.
You don't think it's going to happen?
I don't.
All right.
I think Ken Levine would love to go head-to-head with the Housers, so I don't think that's anything to do with GTA 5. I just think this game's not done.
All right, nice easy one to finish out the show. If not BioShock this year, what game are you most looking forward to this holiday season, Tom?
Ooh, for announced, Papio for the PlayStation Network, and unannounced, anything Wii U.
That's very arty. You must be a PlayStation 3 gamer.
I totally am. My beret's in the other room. Unannounced, anything Wii U that's really awesome.
Okay. Wow.
Dishonored.
Blind faith in Nintendo there. Dishonored, really?
Yeah, well, it's Tom. Blind faith in Nintendo's his thing. But yeah, Dishonored. New IP. Seems interesting.
Yeah. You're into that?
Steampunk Assassin's Creed.
Very good. All right, that's it for this week. Please let us know in the comments. We will be back next Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So sorry to those of you in Europe, etc. We will be on Twitch and YouTube and on GameSpot as well. So thank you very much. From Brendan, Tom, and myself, thank you very much. I need a better sign off than that.